and nuances of each princess's personality. The great halls of Etoria, once echoing with suspicion, now carried a gentler resonance. It was not friendship yet. No, something deeper was still developing beneath the surface, fragile as glass, but undeniably present. Sterling began to notice changes in small ways. A glance that lingered slightly longer, a shared laugh at an inside joke, a subtle warmth where once there was guarded formality. One evening, Sterling found himself in the palace library, a vast chamber lined with towering shelves, each filled with countless books containing the wisdom and history of the Etorian people. He admired the library deeply, its scent of aged parchment, the warmth of the glowing crystals suspended above, their gentle illumination creating pockets of serene light and soft shadow. He was immersed in studying an ancient text when he noticed Lyria enter quietly, carrying a small stack of worn manuscripts. She looked slightly startled to find him there, but recovered quickly, offering a tentative smile. "Studying late again?" she asked gently, setting her books down on a nearby table. Sterling nodded with a slight smile. "There's much to learn about your people," he admitted sincerely. "Each story reveals something valuable." Lyria glanced curiously at the open book before him. "You're interested in our history?" "Very much so," Sterling replied warmly. "Understanding a people's past reveals who they truly are. Every culture is shaped by the stories they tell, the memories they choose to honor." She sat beside him quietly, thoughtful. "Perhaps humans and Etorians are not so different," she mused softly, looking down at the ancient texts. "We all cherish stories of courage and sacrifice." Sterling nodded gently. "Because in the end, our stories define us. They shape our identity, our beliefs, and our hopes for the future." Lyria hesitated briefly, then asked quietly, "James, what story shaped you most?" Sterling considered her question carefully, his gaze distant for a moment. "When I was young, I was taught about duty, honor, and sacrifice. I believed those lessons wholeheartedly, but life showed me there's another story, one of compassion, forgiveness, and understanding. That's the story that truly changed me." Lyria tilted her head thoughtfully. "You humans speak openly of forgiveness and compassion. It's not weakness, is it?" Sterling smiled softly, shaking his head. "It's the greatest strength. It takes courage to forgive, to choose compassion when bitterness is easier." "Have you ever experienced a moment when forgiveness changed your path forever? Did it strengthen or weaken you?" As Sterling spoke, Serena entered the library silently, observing them quietly before joining their conversation with a gentle nod. "Compassion isn't always easy," she remarked carefully. "It often requires courage greater than battle." Sterling turned toward her appreciatively. "Exactly. Compassion demands bravery, but it rewards us in ways violence never can." Serena sighed softly, glancing toward Lyria with quiet affection. "Perhaps it's something our people could learn more deeply." Alara entered next, pausing briefly as she saw the small gathering. Her usual composure faltered momentarily, replaced by a gentle hesitation. "Am I interrupting?" she asked quietly. Sterling smiled warmly, inviting her forward. "Not at all. We were discussing courage, not the courage of war, but of compassion and understanding." Alara raised an eyebrow thoughtfully. "And what conclusion have you reached?" Serena spoke gently. "That compassion is not weakness, but strength." Alara met Sterling's eyes carefully. "And you, James, do you truly believe our alliance can succeed through compassion alone?" Sterling regarded her thoughtfully, nodding slowly. "Not compassion alone. Trust, respect, and genuine understanding must accompany it, but compassion is the foundation." Alara sighed softly, finally allowing her guard to lower slightly. Perhaps, she admitted quietly, perhaps I underestimated you and humans. Have you ever found that compassion changed someone's view of you completely? Did it bring you closer or create more distance? The sisters exchanged subtle, thoughtful glances, each considering the conversation's deeper implications. The library fell silent again, filled only by the soft rustle of turning pages as each princess quietly returned to her studies, Sterling joining them comfortably. Hours later, as the library crystals dimmed softly signaling the approaching night, Sterling stood slowly, stretching gently. It's late, he remarked softly, smiling warmly at the princesses. We should rest. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Lyria nodded, smiling gently. Good night, James. Serena inclined her head respectfully, thoughtful warmth in her gaze. Good night, James. Alara hesitated briefly, finally offering a rare, genuine smile. Good night, she said quietly. Sterling watched them leave silently, feeling quietly hopeful. Each princess had opened slightly more, each showing subtle vulnerability, their trust growing slowly, yet undeniably. Returning alone to his quarters, Sterling gazed quietly at the unfamiliar stars visible from his balcony. He considered their conversation carefully. Understanding, compassion, courage. Lessons he had learned long ago on Earth, yet found echoed profoundly here on Atoria. He thought quietly of his journey so far, reflecting deeply on the quiet yet powerful bonds forming between them. Each princess had taught him something valuable. Alara's fierce pride, Serena's quiet strength, Lyria's gentle optimism. And he, perhaps, had offered lessons, too, of compassion, humility, and courage of another kind. Sterling felt quiet gratitude. The alliance, initially forced, was becoming something genuine. A union built not merely on necessity but on mutual respect and growing trust. He wondered quietly about the future. Challenges awaited, obstacles yet unseen, yet tonight he felt quietly hopeful. Because bonds forged through genuine understanding and compassion were stronger, deeper, and more resilient. Do you think compassion can bridge worlds and unite even those divided by vast differences? Have you ever experienced a moment where genuine compassion changed the course of your relationships? Share your thoughts below. Because sometimes the quietest moments teach us our greatest truths, and compassion often becomes the strongest bond of all. The peaceful days at the Atorian Palace were suddenly shattered by troubling whispers that rippled like quiet storms through the royal halls. Reports from distant outposts arrived, painting a worrying picture. Rival factions on neighboring worlds were stirring restlessly, challenging the fragile peace and threatening the very alliance Atoria and Earth had just begun to forge. Sterling stood silently in the great council chamber, the expansive space filled with grim-faced advisors and generals, their voices low but tense as they argued fiercely over strategies and possible actions. King Alaric sat heavily upon his throne, his lined face solemn and thoughtful as he absorbed the heated debates raging around him. Princesses Alara, Serena, and Lyria stood nearby, observing quietly, each carrying the weight of the impending crisis differently. Sterling caught Alara's gaze, noting the determination behind her controlled expression. Serena's eyes were narrowed thoughtfully, calculating every angle carefully. Lyria shifted nervously, glancing between her sisters and Sterling, seeking silent reassurance. General Kalen, a veteran warrior known for his bold tactics and fiery temper, slammed his fist upon the table, his voice loud and challenging. We must strike first, show our strength clearly, or risk appearing weak to our enemies. Councillor Rennes, an elder statesman known for his diplomatic skills, shook his head sharply. War must be our last resort. The alliance we seek to strengthen must not begin in bloodshed. Sterling stepped forward quietly, drawing immediate attention as he addressed the gathering calmly yet firmly. Both strength and diplomacy have their place, he said steadily, meeting each gaze in turn. But we must first clearly understand our adversaries. Are they acting out of ambition, desperation, or fear? General Kalin scoffed openly. You would have us ask our enemies their feelings before defending ourselves? Sterling met his challenge without flinching. Understanding an enemy's motives is never weakness, it's wisdom. Wars avoided through careful diplomacy save countless lives. But if conflict comes, we must be prepared, not merely to fight, but to unite behind a clear purpose. King Alaric nodded slowly, thoughtful agreement in his eyes. Sterling speaks wisely. We must not act in haste, but neither shall we show hesitation. Both diplomacy and preparation are essential. The council murmured softly, many nodding agreement, the tension slightly easing. Have you ever faced a choice between confrontation and negotiation? How did you decide? After the council meeting ended, Sterling found himself in the palace gardens again, a place he'd grown fond of for its quiet peace. He wasn't alone for long. Lyria approached cautiously, her expression visibly anxious. James, she said softly, is war truly unavoidable? Sterling regarded her gently, seeing the fear hidden beneath her composure. War is never truly unavoidable, Lyria. There's always a choice. But sometimes conflict comes despite our best intentions. The key is to prepare for peace while remaining ready to defend it. Lyria sighed softly. Peace seems so fragile now. Can the alliance truly endure? Sterling smiled reassuringly. Alliances forged in genuine trust and understanding can endure far more than those built merely on necessity. What we've begun here is stronger than it seems. Alara joined them quietly, her voice carefully controlled. Still, we must prepare. Our enemies will not wait for us to find trust. Sterling met her gaze calmly. Agreed, preparation is essential, but so is unity. This crisis can strengthen us, if we allow it. Serena approached silently, considering Sterling's words carefully. Unity is easily spoken, harder to achieve. How can we trust so completely, especially under threat? Sterling regarded them all carefully, understanding the weight of their uncertainty. Trust doesn't mean ignoring doubt. It means acknowledging it openly, facing it together. Doubt can break weak bonds, but strong ones are tested and strengthened by it. Have you ever doubted someone, only to find that trust grew stronger once faced openly? Share your thoughts below. The sisters exchanged thoughtful glances, each silently considering his words. Sterling knew the path ahead remained uncertain, filled with danger and difficult decisions. Yet he believed genuinely that the strength of their alliance lay not merely in treaties or rituals, but in the quiet trust growing slowly between them. He stepped forward gently, his voice steady yet gentle. We face challenges that will test us profoundly. Our enemies hope fear will fracture our bond, but it can do the opposite. It can forge something unbreakable. Alara finally nodded slowly. Then we prepare together, not merely for war, but to protect peace. Serena agreed quietly, a peace strengthened by genuine trust. Lyria added softly, a peace worth fighting for. Sterling felt quiet pride seeing their resolve harden, not through anger or fear, but through understanding. He knew then their alliance could survive whatever challenges lay ahead. Have you ever faced a moment when unity overcame fear or doubt? How did it change your path forward? Later, alone in his quarters, Sterling gazed silently at the stars visible through his window. Each star seemed distant yet bright, their quiet glow a reminder of hope amidst uncertainty. He understood the days ahead would test their alliance profoundly. Yet tonight he felt quietly confident, not in weapons or strategy, but in something simpler yet stronger: trust. The whispers of war still lingered, threats remained, yet Sterling knew the strength of their unity could overcome fear. Together they could protect the fragile peace they'd begun to build. He wondered silently about the future. Battles would come, but perhaps the truest victory wouldn't lie in conquest, but in understanding, trust, and peace won not merely by strength, but by genuine unity. Do you believe genuine unity can overcome even the greatest threats? Share your story below. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought on fields of war, but in quiet moments when we choose trust over fear, unity over division, and peace over conflict. The day had finally arrived, bathed in the soft golden glow of Etoria's twin suns, casting gentle warmth across the capital city. The palace, a grand testament to generations of peace and power, bustled with dignitaries from countless worlds. Today marked the first official summit between the Etorian Earth Alliance and their once hostile neighbors, whose ambitions threatened the fragile stability both worlds fought to protect. James Sterling stood quietly in the grand hall, dressed in formal attire that mirrored the ceremonial robes of Etoria, though retaining subtle accents reflective of his Earth heritage. He watched as the hall filled slowly, delegates arriving with cautious curiosity and lingering suspicion. The tension in the air was palpable, underscored by whispers and wary glances. King Alaric, seated regally upon his throne, acknowledged each arrival with calm dignity, his presence alone lending gravitas to the occasion. Beside Sterling, the three princesses, Alara, Serena, and Lyria, stood gracefully, each displaying composed confidence despite the gravity of the moment. Sterling met Alara's gaze briefly, noting the subtle tension behind her carefully controlled expression. She offered a barely perceptible nod, silently reassuring him. Serena's eyes were thoughtful, her posture calm yet alert. Lyria stood closest, her eyes quietly seeking reassurance, which Sterling returned with a gentle, encouraging smile. The grand doors opened slowly, admitting the rival delegation, representatives from planets whose names evoked memories of past conflicts and deep mistrust. The lead delegate, Ambassador Heirs, approached steadily, his posture rigid but respectful. He stopped before the throne, bowing carefully to King Alaric. King Alaric, Ambassador Heirs began formally, his voice firm but cautious. We gather today to seek a peaceful path forward. Though our peoples have known strife, perhaps it is time we explore unity instead. King Alaric inclined his head gravely. Peace is always preferable. Yet trust cannot be forced. It must be built through honesty and mutual understanding. Ambassador Heirs turned his gaze carefully to Sterling and the princesses. Then let us build that trust today, step by cautious step. Sterling stepped forward calmly, addressing the gathered assembly clearly but gently. Trust begins when we acknowledge our past conflicts openly, without fear or reservation. Unity requires more than treaties. It requires courage. The courage to forgive, to understand, to look forward rather than backward. Ambassador Heirs met Sterling's gaze respectfully, clearly impressed by the sincerity behind his words. Your reputation precedes you, Commander Sterling. It is said you seek peace above conquest. Sterling nodded gently. Conquest leaves scars. Peace heals them. Our alliance proves that when cultures set aside suspicion in favor of understanding, The strength gained surpasses mere military might. Ambassador Karras considered this carefully, visibly moved by Sterling's words. Then, perhaps today can mark a true beginning, not just of treaties but genuine unity. Have you ever experienced a moment where genuine dialogue turned suspicion into trust? How did it shape your understanding? The assembly murmured softly, the mood subtly shifting from guarded caution to cautious optimism. The princesses exchanged thoughtful glances, their presence reassuring as Sterling continued confidently. Today we unite, not by ignoring differences but by celebrating them, Sterling declared warmly. Strength lies not in sameness but in diversity. Our alliance has proven this, and together we can forge something lasting, something genuine. Ambassador Karras nodded solemnly, stepping forward and offering his hand openly. A universal gesture understood clearly. Sterling met it without hesitation, a symbolic handshake witnessed silently by all gathered. King Alaric smiled gently, his voice steady yet warm. Let this mark the start of genuine peace, not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding. Applause erupted spontaneously throughout the hall, genuine relief and hope washing visibly over those assembled. Sterling stepped back quietly, feeling quietly grateful. The path ahead remained uncertain, challenges inevitable, but today had planted seeds of true unity. After the ceremony, guests mingled comfortably, cautious optimism replacing earlier suspicion. Sterling found himself quietly observing from the edge of the hall, satisfied yet thoughtful. The three princesses approached him quietly, each carrying gentle smiles. You have changed, Atoria, Serena admitted softly, genuine warmth in her voice. Perhaps forever. Sterling shook his head gently, humble. We changed it, together. Alara stepped forward cautiously, her voice gentle but steady. Perhaps unity truly does require courage, not just to defend peace but to pursue it actively. Sterling nodded gently. Peace is indeed active, not passive. We must choose it every day. Lyria regarded him warmly, her voice soft but hopeful. And now, perhaps our worlds can learn to choose it together. Sterling smiled quietly, understanding deeply their newfound unity and strength. Then, quietly, he reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. Alara's eyes widened slightly, curiosity and surprise mingling in her expression. Sterling took a gentle breath before speaking calmly, sincerely. Our alliance began with duty and necessity, but grew into something genuine, he said gently, his voice steady yet soft. I never anticipated finding true connection here, but now I see clearly. Unity born of understanding and trust is strongest. He knelt gently, opening the box to reveal a delicate ring, crafted carefully, blending Atorian crystals with earth materials, symbolizing the bond formed between worlds. Lyria, Sterling asked softly, his voice steady yet quietly hopeful, will you stand with me? Not merely as allies, but as partners. As proof that genuine love can bridge even the greatest divides. Lyria's breath caught audibly. Surprise and genuine happiness reflected clearly in her expression. She looked briefly to her sisters. Alara nodded gently, approval clear. Serena smiled warmly, genuine support in her eyes. Finally, Lyria smiled brightly, warmth filling her eyes. Yes, James, she said softly, joy and sincerity clear in her voice. I will. Sterling gently placed the ring on her finger, applause breaking spontaneously from those gathered. It was a moment symbolic of unity, not just political, but profoundly personal. Have you ever witnessed a moment when love bridged impossible divides, proving unity and compassion stronger than any difference? The evening celebrations were warm and joyous, filled with laughter and genuine camaraderie. Sterling quietly observed the mingling guests, former rivals, now allies, united not merely by treaty, but by genuine understanding and compassion. Later, beneath Etoria's shimmering night sky, Sterling stood quietly with Lyria, her hand gently in his. The princesses joined quietly, sharing the gentle warmth of newfound family and genuine unity. Sterling regarded the stars thoughtfully, considering the journey behind and ahead carefully. He knew challenges awaited, but unity, forged not through force but genuine trust, was strongest. Turning gently to those gathered nearby, he spoke warmly, inviting sincere reflection. Have you experienced moments when compassion and trust overcame suspicion and fear, when unity truly prevailed over division? Share your stories below. Because sometimes unity begins not in grand declarations, but quiet moments when we choose understanding over suspicion, compassion over conflict, and love over fear. Time passed softly over Etoria, gently smoothing away old wounds and quietly nurturing the fragile bonds forged by trust, understanding, and love. The alliance between Earth and Etoria had blossomed not merely into political unity, but into something far richer and infinitely more precious, a family. James Sterling found himself standing once again in the palace gardens he had come to cherish deeply. The gardens, once merely beautiful to him, now held memories woven gently between every bloom, leaf, and stone pathway. Beside him stood Lyria, her hand resting gently in his, quiet contentment clear in her gentle smile. Near them, Alara and Serena stood quietly, their gazes soft yet proud, watching their sister with affectionate warmth. Lyria's eyes drifted thoughtfully to the gentle horizon, painted softly by Etoria's twin suns, the sky a canvas of lavender and gold hues. "James," she said softly, her voice quiet yet filled with warmth, "do you think the unity we've built here will truly endure through generations?" Sterling regarded her gently, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "Yes, Lyria. Genuine unity endures, not because it's flawless, but because it chooses understanding and compassion, even when faced with doubt and challenges." Serena stepped forward gently, her eyes thoughtful. "I admit, I never imagined a union formed from political necessity could become something so genuine. Perhaps our worlds truly can learn lasting peace." Alara, her once proud demeanor softened through experiences shared, nodded quietly. "Our alliance was tested deeply, yet it strengthened. Perhaps this truly proves that bonds forged in honesty and understanding are strongest." Sterling smiled gently, meeting their gazes warmly. "True bonds endure precisely because they face challenges openly. Trust isn't absence of doubt. It's choosing to overcome doubt together. Have you ever faced a moment when trust overcame fear, turning an uncertain bond into unbreakable unity?" As they stood quietly together, footsteps approached gently. King Alaric joined them quietly, his expression calm yet warm, eyes gently reflecting quiet pride as he observed the gentle harmony now binding his daughters and Sterling. "My daughters," King Alaric spoke softly, his voice gentle yet resonant. "Your journey began reluctantly, yet I see clearly now how this alliance has transformed you all. Perhaps unity truly is strongest when forged through genuine connection rather than duty alone." Sterling bowed respectfully, gratitude clear in his eyes. "Your Majesty, this unity was your vision, but its strength comes from genuine respect, trust, and understanding we've all learned along the way." King Alaric nodded slowly, gentle agreement in his gaze. "Then let our worlds witness clearly this lesson. True strength lies not in force, but in genuine unity. A quiet announcement gently echoed across the palace grounds, signaling that the awaited moment had finally arrived. Sterling turned warmly to Lyria, smiling gently. "Are you ready?" Lyria smiled softly, eyes shining gently. "Ready as I'll ever be." They moved gently toward the palace's ceremonial hall, Alara and Serena following closely behind, their presence quietly supportive and affectionate. Inside, the hall was filled gently with guests from across the Alliance. Friends and allies gathered to celebrate a moment symbolizing unity born genuinely through trust and love. The priestess stepped forward calmly, her voice resonating gently as she began the ancient Atorian ceremony of union, a ritual binding souls not merely through political necessity but genuine affection and shared purpose. Today, we honor the union of James Sterling of Earth and Princess Lyria of Atoria, not merely as symbols of alliance but as proof that genuine love bridges divides, creating bonds stronger than fear or prejudice. Sterling turned gently toward Lyria, his voice soft yet steady, his words sincere and clear. "Lyria, our paths were bound by circumstance but shaped by choice, by choosing understanding over suspicion, compassion over conflict. I promise today before these witnesses to always choose you, not merely as ally, but as partner." Lyria smiled softly, her voice gentle yet clear. "James, you taught us courage comes in many forms. You showed me that genuine strength lies not in pride but humility, compassion, and understanding. Today, I choose you, not merely as ally but as partner, companion, and friend." The hall erupted gently in applause, genuine warmth and joy evident among those gathered. Sterling glanced quietly at Alara and Serena, their smiles genuine, affectionate approval clear. The ceremony concluded gently, transitioning gracefully to warm celebrations beneath Atoria's twilight sky, laughter and gentle conversation echoing softly throughout the palace grounds. As evening gently settled, Sterling found himself standing quietly with Lyria, gazing thoughtfully at the stars above, hand gently clasped with hers. "James," Lyria whispered softly, thoughtful warmth filling her voice, "do you believe peace like ours can truly last forever?" Sterling regarded her gently, nodding slowly. "I believe genuine peace endures, because it chooses compassion over fear, understanding over suspicion, unity over division. It endures precisely because it's tested, yet chooses to endure. Have you ever experienced a bond strengthened deeply by challenges faced openly together?" Sterling glanced gently toward the gentle horizon, thoughtful warmth filling his voice. "Our unity began reluctantly, but became genuine precisely because we faced doubts openly. Let it be a lesson clearly learned, that bonds formed not through force, but understanding truly endure." Nearby, Alara and Serena joined gently, sharing quiet companionship beneath the gentle night sky. They stood silently, watching stars twinkle softly above, each quietly reflecting on journeys shared, paths shaped gently through trials, misunderstandings overcome, unity built genuinely through compassion and trust. As gentle laughter echoed softly across the palace grounds, Sterling turned thoughtfully toward those gathered nearby, inviting genuine reflection. Have you ever faced a moment when genuine compassion overcame suspicion, creating bonds stronger than doubt or fear? Can genuine unity truly bridge divides, not merely between worlds but between hearts? Share your story below. Because sometimes genuine unity begins gently, not through grand declarations, but quiet moments choosing compassion over suspicion, trust over doubt, unity over fear. As gentle evening deepened quietly, Sterling knew clearly, Genuine unity endures precisely because it chooses, again and again, understanding, compassion, and trust. Tonight marked gently a new dawn, not merely for Etoria and Earth, but for all worlds witnessing clearly unity built genuinely through compassion, understanding, and genuine love.